What is up, Brooke Gleichowski? So excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Annabelle. I'm so excited to be here and talk about Jesus and all the things. Can't wait.
All the things and gymnastics.
And gymnastics, of course. Yeah.
I wish I could have been a gymnast. I absolutely loved watching it growing up, doing it in my garage growing up at the gym. And so I'm super excited to talk about all those things. But, Brooke, I ask every guest on the What's Up podcast what they're all about at the moment. It could be something super big, something super small, silly, or serious. What are you all about right now?
Oh, that's a great question. Can I have a second to think about
You
that?
can you can have more than a second.
Okay.
All the things. I
What
guess
am
I'll
I
give
all
you I'll
about?
give you one of my all abouts right now. I am always drinking the, Starbucks pre-made cold brew or, iced coffee. I have it
Hmm.
every day. I probably have way too much of it, so that is, my all about. Been all about it for a long time,
Okay.
and I need to start, taking myself off it as much as possible.
I love that. I would say I kind of have two. I kind of have two. Number one, I'm all about pliables right now. With the coconut base, oh my gosh, I, just discovered the coconut base, and I absolutely love it. And I'm also kind of in, my reading era right now. I've never been a super big reader. I really have only read the Bible, quite frankly.
Hey, the if you're gonna
Um
read any book, that's the one to do, right?
Yeah, but I've recently been reading Radical by David Platt, and it's definitely getting me into my reading era, especially with all the traveling we've had during season. Um, I would have never expected that I'd be picking up a book on a plane, but here I am.
There you go. Those are two great things. And sometimes your brain needs a rest and the screen just isn't the way to do
Oh my
it. And
gosh,
so
yeah.
reading can be so great. I do remember I'd always look around on the team plane or the team bus and say, okay, what is everyone doing? And there would be only a handful of people actually pulling out a book. And so I actually did it one travel trip. I read one book over the span of a weekend trip. And it was the best thing ever. I
Wow.
think it was one of Madison Pruitt's books. And it was the greatest thing I did because it just got me off the screen and off my phone. But you do spend a lot of your time, not just at Pliables in reading books, but being a gymnast at Georgia, which is so
Yes.
cool and definitely not a simple path to get there. So, when did your gymnastics journey really begin?
Honestly, from the moment I can remember, I don't have a time where I remember not doing gymnastics. It's just always been a part of my life. My mom kind of did cheer, did gymnastics growing up. So it was kind of like a no brainer that, oh, I'm going to put my kids in the young classes. And so that's really how I started. And it's funny because at first I actually did not like it at all. I was the kid crying for my mom. I was not into all the flips. I feel like a lot of times when you hear a gymnast talk, you're like, oh, I was just bouncing off the walls. I was so unsafe doing all those things. No, I was the cautious kid, very careful all the time. And I eventually really started continuing to go to gymnastics just because I liked my friends there a lot. I loved my friends there. And it was around age 9 where I kind of hit my stride and I was like, "Oh, okay. I'm kind of good at this. I think I could go somewhere with this." And my club coach was actually a huge part of just empowering me and encouraging me in that way and kind of helping to show me Brooke, you're really good at this. You have a talent here. Let's use this talent. And so yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And from there, of course, lots of ups and downs, but um here we are at Georgia. So it's pretty cool.
I think that's so encouraging to hear for even some younger athletes. Hey, it wasn't like I was immediately fell in love with it and I was immediately so good at it, or I had no fear doing flips because now look at where you are. And I think that's so cool and encouraging for young athletes. But you did say when you were around 9, you started realizing, okay, maybe I am pretty good at this. And I love asking people, hey, when you think back to your youth sport days and when you started getting pretty good at what you're doing, is there a specific moment or competition or meet or just skill that you learned where you thought, "Man, I this is what I feel like the Lord has gifted me in?"
Hmm. So I definitely didn't realize that it was from the Lord until much later. like, that part of it of realizing, like, "Wow, God has given me this gift," that was definitely not until I really had my own relationship with Jesus because I just wasn't able to really understand that or wrap my head around that until later. But growing up, there's a program, I actually don't know if it's still called this, but it's called TOPS, and it's like the young gymnast, and it's basically like conditioning test and really basic skill tests that you go through and you can qualify for like TOPS nationals. And when you go to TOPS nationals, you train at the National Training Center. And I think it was my first time that I was invited there that I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, I'm going to the National Training Center." Like, even at the time, it was the Karoli Ranch, so, like, all the Olympians were all over the walls, their signatures everywhere, like, I definitely had a moment there where I was like, "Oh, wow," like, the fact that I'm here is crazy. But again, I was 9 years old, so very young still. Um, but that definitely, like, fueled my dreams a lot. Um, and then, like I said, once I really developed my own, like, personal relationship with Jesus towards high school is when I started to really realize, like, wow, I was given this gift to be able to do this. And at that time, I had kind of, like, figured out my strengths, I guess, a little bit better in gymnastics. So if you watch me or Georgia at all, like, you'll see that I mostly just compete balance beam. I also have competed floor and I love competing floor, but those are like my top 2. And so towards the end of high school is really when I started to recognize, like, okay, beam and floor are kind of like my thing. Um, which is like, yes, great that I have these strengths, but also it can be hard to get recruited when you don't have all 4 events and those sort of things. And I spent a lot of time focused on what I didn't have because I didn't have those other 2 events as well. And someone said to me, like, the moment that you stop focusing on what you don't have and start focusing on what you do have is actually the moment that other people are going to realize how good you are at those other 2. And like, that's where you're gonna start getting recruited, and because this was happening, like, during my recruiting process. And so, once I started focusing on what I did have is when I really realized, like, "Okay, but God gave me this strength, like, He gave me these gifts for these things." Not to say I can't do the other 2 events, but, like, beam and floor, like, it's a gift that I get to do these things. So instead of focusing so much on, "Oh, but, like, I'm so scared of vault, and bars is so hard for me no matter how hard I try. Like, I'm just not as good as the other girls," and shifting to, like, but I love doing beam and floor, and look at these skills that just literally, as a gift, come naturally to me. Like, it's so random that I can just do a flip on a 4-inch piece of wood. Like, what
It's
in the
crazy. I've
world?
seen videos of you just
Like,
warming
what
up,
in
and
the
I'm like,
world?
"What?" I'm like,
Yeah,
"How?"
like, that is so that does you don't just, like, wake up and, like, know how to do that, and so, yeah, that's what I would really say about that is once I had a personal relationship with Jesus, I was able to notice the strengths that he did give me, and that's when I was like, "I am meant to do this," at this point of my life.
Thank you for sharing that because it's so relatable, regardless of whether you're a gymnast or just play another sport, of looking at what your teammates can do and their strengths and what they're being praised for, or how other people are getting recruited and why they're getting recruited, and to find the, okay, well, what are the things that I don't have on my list that they have, right? And it's like you're going to
Mhm.
get recruited because of who you are as an athlete and like what you can bring to that team. And so I love that you brought that up because it's so easy to, through the recruiting process, but also like while you're on a team, to see the things that you don't have. And I love that perspective shift that you had and the person who encouraged you in that, because that is a daily fight as an athlete that you're going to
Mhm.
find. And even just in the world that we live in with comparison and social media and all the things. And that's what makes teams so great, is that when they have people of diversity of skill and diversity of talent. I'm curious, how did you know that Georgia was the place for you? Obviously, you talked about the recruiting process, but how did you know that it was
Mhm.
definitely going to be there?
Yeah, so I actually of course, my faith was a huge part of it, and my church at home has kind of like a network or, like, partner church here in Athens, so that was immediately like okay, I know I'm gonna have that church community. Like, I know I have a place I can go immediately. So that was definitely comforting, on top of the fact that I really just my heart was here. Like, that might be a really generic thing to say when people are going through the recruiting process, but just compared to the other schools, I felt a personal connection with this place. I also was really excited and motivated at the idea of helping Georgia, like, rebuild. Like, being a part of something that is rebuilding is really cool, because, of course, Georgia gymnastics has this incredible history, but we were kinda down for a few years, and during my recruiting process, it was like Georgia's now on the up again, and so that was really that really just resonated with me of like, "Oh, you're gonna be a part of something bigger than just the wins and the losses, like, you're gonna be a part of rebuilding this, like, legendary program, and that is going to mean so much more." Like, you're gonna have more of an impact because you're going from down to up, right? Rather than just coming in and you're at the top and let's just stay at the top, which, of course, there's great things about that too. But I just think that that was really cool to me and stood out to me and drew me in more.
And you can believe in the mission too, and you can see
Right.
the end in sight, and it's so cool to be a part of history with an already
Exactly.
iconic program. Like, what an awesome opportunity that is, and like you said, sometimes you just know, you're like, "Man, I just feel like the Lord is calling me here," and, like, that's okay to step into that, even if it might feel like the conservative option or like, "Oh, you're just close by," or, "Oh, it's familiar." Like, that was a little bit of my story. I went
Mhm.
to Boston College, which was nearby, and it might have looked like the obvious choice from, like, proximity of location, but, like, to me, it was like, "No, that's, like, where my heart is," and so,
Right.
I think being okay, like, if social media wasn't a thing and, pedigree of school wasn't a thing, like, where would your heart tell you to go, right? And so, I love that, but we have to talk about Beam Boldly, your podcast, because it is
Yes.
so cool. I've gotten the opportunity to listen to a few of your episodes, and first, like, you're an amazing host, so maybe we could flip the
Thank
script here
you.
at some
Oh.
point, but so cool that you are able to do this alongside playing a Division I sport at the highest level and all the things that you have going on. So, what's the story about starting this podcast?
Yeah, so I'm a sophomore now, so last year was my freshman year, and it was a huge growth year for me, as I'm sure most freshman years are, um, but it was really the first time that I was like, "God is in my sport every single day." Like, I have learned, definitely not mastered, but learned how to really invite him in, and boy, did it change my season, my mindset, everything. It really changed everything. I was driving to my club gym, which my club gym is an hour and a half from where I actually live. So I drove an
That
hour and a
is
half.
not close.
That is not close. Yeah,
And
and
how often are
looking
you
back,
going there?
every day, Monday through Friday. I don't know, like, my parents are angels because they drove me too. Like, even once I got my license, they were like, "Nope, we're gonna let you eat lunch in the car and study in the car." So, they're angels and incredible for making that happen. I still don't know how they did it, but, um, yeah, my club gym is an hour and a half from where I live. So, I was back from my first year of college, heading to just train at my club gym over the summer, and I was, like, reminiscing and just reflecting on, like, wow, typically, this drive for me was full of so many nerves, so much anxiety, so much just like, "Ugh, I don't wanna go to practice," and when you're sitting in the car, you're literally just, like, sitting in those feelings, right? And there were days where I'd cry all the way to practice, and I couldn't even tell you why I was crying or what I was anxious about. It was just like practice felt like such a burden, it felt so heavy, and I was listening actually to Maddie Pruitt's podcast, and I was just like, "Wow, it would've been so cool to have a podcast to listen to of an older collegiate athlete, specifically a gymnast, of course, in my case, but even just any athlete, who is going through so many of the same things, and how are they inviting God into it?" Like, that was my biggest struggle in high school is, like, Sundays, I was serving, loved church, like, most confident girl in the world. Like, I knew God created me, like, all of those things, and then Monday, I'd turn around and I was just so nervous for practice, felt so heavy. I didn't understand how I could be one person on Sunday and another person on Monday, like, the dots were not connecting. Um, and so, yeah, I'm just on this drive and I'm like, I wish I had something to listen to. Like that could have changed my whole club career, my whole mindset, all the memories I have. Like that would have been huge. And then I was like, huh, I can talk. That was literally like the words that were popped up in my head is like, I can talk. I love talking to people, and I have a lot of friends who would love to share their story too. And so I called my dad and I was like, "Dad, how hard is it to start a podcast?" And he was like, "What are you thinking?" And from there, honestly, we just started like planning it out. I was watching a bunch of YouTube videos on how do you start a podcast and all these things. And I just started writing episodes. I just started messaging my friends that I knew were athletes and had a really big faith and would want to talk and share. What do you think about this? What would you want to talk about if you came on an episode? All those sort of things. And so that was really happening through June and July and into August, and then school started, so that's kind of, like, difficult, and I had gotten to a point where I knew the content, but the technology stuff was, like, not up my alley. I didn't know how to do that on my own. And my dad, I literally was praying like, "Lord, either make the computer work or send me someone that can make the computer work or just tell me that this is meant for another time in my life," right? Like, great, you have the idea, but it's not for now. And about a week later, my dad had this random connection of a woman who owns a podcast producing company who is willing to work with me with my not, very full funds of a college student. And she was like, "Yeah, I love your idea, like, let's go, let's do it." And here we are, we're like 20 episodes in, I think, I can't even keep track anymore, which is incredible. I
That's a
have a
good
little
thing.
setup in my apartment, and, it's been so fun, so rewarding, so fulfilling, um, and just really cool that even during my season and the school year that has been full of a lot of ups and downs, um, it's been really cool to have this community and this platform and just connect with other athletes that I may not have connected with, if it weren't for the podcast, like, through it all, so
So awesome. What a cool story. And I love how you were willing to say, like, okay, God, like this is what I want and this is my hope, my dream to do. But like if we can't figure out the technology and the computer stuff, like then we'll come back to another time. And just so cool that you are able to like realize that and to give it to him because ultimately like you want to walk in what he has for you. And sometimes it's hard to kind of give up things to him that you want so badly, but
right.
it's always great when he gives it to you in return. And something that I have found through doing this podcast is that, yes, like I am just asking questions and hosting and meeting people, but sometimes I feel like I am actually gaining so much from hearing people speak about their own faith. It encourages
Mhm.
me as just the host, right? Not even like technically the listener, but like the host. For you, in what ways has hosting a podcast where you get to talk about faith and hear encouragement from other athletes and friends and people that you might not have known before, how has that just helped you throughout the intensity of your own season?
Yeah. I think number 1 is it has always been just 1 hour, about 1 hour of my week that is dedicated to this, where I have to, like, step out of the hustle and bustle of season and the regular just, like, routine that's just, like, happening over and over and over again, and it literally is just 1 hour where I'm talking about Jesus, and it's narrowed my focus and brought my focus back to that. I think that has been so helpful. I know that, my teammates and I talk about it and they're like, "How's it going?" And I'm like, "I love it because even if I'm having the worst week, I'm so excited to talk to whoever I get to talk to on Being Boldly, hear their story and talk about Jesus because it always brightens my day, um, and brightens my outlook on life, right? Like, it makes everything a little bit lighter. And then I've also just learned so much from other athletes and what they're doing. I mean, one of the actually, I think it was the very first episode that dropped was with, 2 of my friends that are gymnasts at Kentucky, and one of them mentioned the phrase, like, "I pray that God would get in my head before I do." Oh my gosh, when I heard that, like, I'm still getting chills thinking about it because I remember when I heard that, being someone who gets in their head so much, I was like, oh my gosh, like, that is so helpful, and that's something I say every single day now. Every time I mount the beam, especially in competition when you feel like, the nerves are overwhelming and you don't have control, it's literally just like, "Hey, God, I'm giving you permission to give me all my thoughts. Don't allow me to have any authority in that." So that's just one example of, like, something that I've learned and then been able to, translate into my sport and my everyday life as well. So yeah.
Well, now I'm gonna take that and translate it into my life because that is such a good thing to pray and to say and to have on your heart the forefront. Like, I think things like that are so awesome, and it's why you need community. It's why you need
Mhm.
to surround yourself with people who are chasing after Jesus because you can do all the things, but, like, really, you're gonna grow so much by hearing and listening and being encouraged by other people. There was even
Yeah.
something that I had, an interview with a girl, Joy Dunn, and she plays ice hockey at Ohio State, and she had said a few times in our recording, the Lord was so kind to give this to me or to allow me to do this. And I started saying the Lord was so kind for like the next
Yeah,
year after that because it just had such an impact on me and my perspective. And so it's so cool to see the impact that that has had on you.
for
The
sure.
mindset and mentality, like you said, when you are on the beam or you're just in a hard practice is so crucial in all sports, but like gymnastic is I feel like it's on steroids. And so, has
Yeah.
there been a specific moment just this season where you have felt you had to really call on the Lord while you're in the middle of competing?
Yeah, for sure. I don't well, of course, during competing, it's like a constant, like, prayer. It's just like me, God, and the beam. Like, that's the conversation happening. But I think through this season, I actually really was not competing very much at the beginning of the year, and it was a blessing because our team was had so much depth. Like, we had so many incredible gymnasts, right? So, just because I wasn't competing, like, didn't mean that our team was like it wasn't because I was, like, doing bad necessarily, is what I'm trying to say. But it was still hard because it was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm working, working, working every day, and I'm not getting to perform." Um, and that was definitely a struggle, and my mindset had to shift from, I wanna compete, why can't I compete? When's it gonna be my turn?" to, "Okay, my role right now is to be there for the girls that are competing, is to pray on their behalf before the meet, during the meet, whatever they need, to encourage them. If they have a bad warm up, I'm the first one there to, help them get back on track." My mindset shifted a lot to humility. That's been like kind of a word that has continued to pop up just over and over and over again this year for me. And when my mindset shifted from like, why can't when's it going to be my turn? I'm not doing this and that. And I'm upset and I'm discouraged, me, to focus on literally everyone else around you. I'm going to focus on every teammate, every coach. I was getting to a point where I was really, really discouraged and flipping to how can I shift my focus to those around me was huge and then brought so much blessing because I became so much closer with my teammates through that. And now having the privilege of competing, it has been even more fun because those girls that I'm closer with help empower me the same way that I was able to like empower them, if that makes sense.
I, like, relate to everything you just said. It
Okay.
makes more than
I
sense,
feel like
and
I was like
no,
blabbing for
it's
a second
so
and I was
no,
like,
that
wait,
was
I hope
everything
this
you're
is
saying, I'm like,
making
"Yep,
sense.
felt it." I was going back to, like, all the times when I was in those exact same moments, and thank you for sharing that because it is really hard as an athlete, especially when you are striving to be a national champion, to even just articulate out loud, like when you aren't getting that time in the competition or on the field or in your sport that you
Right.
work so hard for. And I think the thing that helped me, just like you, was getting out of myself and pouring into others. Because when you're able to cheer on your teammates, pray on behalf of your teammates, encourage them when your situation might not look the way that you want it to, it
Mhm.
helps you just like take the pressure off yourself and be so concerned with what you're doing at the same time holding, well, my team is succeeding and like that's so awesome. And it's
Right.
okay to still be disappointed in, your personal situation when you're
Yeah.
striving to compete at the highest level. And so I thank you for sharing that because it is so hard. And I think the cool part about what you said in your story is that now you're in a position where your team does expect you to perform on the beam and you might be called on. And the
Mhm.
biggest thing for athletes, I think, your career is always going to be up and down, right? And in those moments when your situation looks different, you can't let it go to waste. Like you got to keep working. You got to keep
Right.
that confidence. You have to use your experience because you only get so many years at Georgia, so many years at whatever college you have, and that's your experience. Like your experience isn't just on game day or on competition day or on match day or on meet day. Like your experience is the process, going to class, going to PT, treatment,
Mhm.
practice, the bus rides with your team, and like just absolutely expending all of it is what the Lord wants from you, is to just be
Yeah.
fully there and fully present. And so thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
a moment that I saw on social media that you had posted was worshiping probably before a competition with, it looked like maybe some other athletes from
Yes.
different colleges. Can you just describe what that moment was like? Because I know
Yeah.
there are so many cool moments and girls sticking landings and you got the cool get up and the hair looks perfect and those are like highlight moments, but that looked like a really cool highlight moment.
No, it was incredible, and I'm getting, like, chills thinking about it still, but, yeah, so we were at SEC's, and this year, all of the SEC's teams stayed in the same hotel, which is really cool because you walk around and it's just, like, gymnast after gymnast, team after team, everywhere. But a couple days before that, I just kind of had this, like, vision, idea that I couldn't get out of my head, and it was literally, like, all of these teams worshiping to the song "Great Are You, Lord." And I was like, "Wow, like, that would be so cool," and, one of my teammates, and she's actually my roommate as well, Addie Wall, she had mentioned that a couple years back, they did, like, an SEC Bible study, all team, whatever, that an LSU gymnast had kind of, like, run, but then after that, we were all split up in different hotels, and it was hard to coordinate, so it didn't quite, like, happen the following year. And when I found out that we were all in the same hotel, I was like, "Let's make this happen again, but, like, let's bring worship into this," because when we focus our eyes on Jesus, our performance is, first of all, we don't have as strong of, like, a grip on our performance. It's a weight lifted off of us, but it also just, like, glorifies him that much more because 'cause we're giving it to him before it even happens. And so, I messaged a lot of my friends from Florida and Arkansas and LSU and Alabama, um, and Kentucky too, and, like, literally, we had a connection to basically every SEC team, and we were just texting like, "Hey, we're gonna find a random room, like, I'm gonna bring a speaker, we're gonna have this moment of worship," and then, an LSU gymnast, her name's Ashley, she was like, "Yeah, and I've got this, like, little Bible study devotional thing if you want me to read that." I was like, "Awesome, like, let's go." And then one of my she was like we were teammates in club, and now she's at Florida, so I've known her for a while. She was like, "Yeah, and, like, I'm not afraid to pray, like, I'll pray for us." So it was really cool how we all, like, came together and brought something different, and I think we had, like, almost 40 gymnasts there and managers as well, which is cool to include them, they're a part of our team culture as well. Um, and it was just really special to, of course, everyone at first a little nervous, a little awkward, not everybody knows everyone,
I'm
but
gonna beat you tomorrow. Yeah.
right,
Yeah,
but
let
then
me put
like
my arm around you, but tomorrow we're
yeah.
going down.
Yeah. But then, like, by the end, it was just we're all, like, dancing to praise, we're jumping, like, we're interacting with each other, like, I really did not know many of the Arkansas gymnasts very well at all, and now, like, one of them is gonna come on my podcast soon, like, it was just so cool to create that community, and again, just bring us together in a way that reminds us that gymnastics is not what it's all about, like, this is what it's all about, and it just made SECs mean so much more.
What an amazing story, and so cool for me to hear the background and for the listeners to hear, because when you see a, like, a 30-second Instagram reel or TikTok, like, you don't really get the full scoop, and so
Right.
thank you for sharing that because it's, like, fun for me to know, and, like, what a cool opportunity for you so young in your college career that you can, like, look back on and potentially do again, and just community with
Yeah.
other gymnasts who are going through the exact same thing as you.
Well, and
I love it.
something else that's really cool is I've now had, we're heading into nationals, and I've now had a girl, I don't know her at all, never met her, seen her do gymnastics, she's amazing, but, like, she sent me a DM, she doesn't go to an SEC school, and she was like, "Hey, I saw you did this at SECs, is there a way we can make it happen at nationals?" And, like, that was so cool because again, like, I don't know her, like, I don't know anything about her faith or her story or anything, and she's coming as actually an individual, like, she's not even coming with the teams, and so she is searching for that
Wow.
kind of community going into nationals, and I was like, "Let's figure out the hotel situation and, like, let's make that happen," because yeah, it's just super cool to see how, girls from the outside are like, "Wow, that's so cool, like, let's do it again." Super just empowering and encouraging as a believer who's in college sports.
Wow, amazing. That is so cool, like, the ripple effects of that, and
Mhm.
obviously, like, not everything has to be shared on social media, not everything is needed to be posted about, but, like, so cool that you were able to share it because now look at the impact that it's had, and, like, I can even think to when I was a younger athlete, like, looking and searching for older girls in my sport who, like, love Jesus, but, like, also
Mhm.
wanted to, like, tear it up in my sport,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
cool that, like, you are helping promote this story that like you can be a competitive athlete and aggressive and care so much about your sport and also like have a sweet soul and like do community and life with others. And I think that is sometimes a misconception about
For
athletics that
sure.
you can't hold both at the same time, but man, like, what an awesome way to use the power of social media. And I'm so excited to follow along with the end of your postseason, hopefully, to see some of that. But I have some quick gymnastic questions before we wrap up
Okay.
here because I have to know okay, walk me through the dismount. You're on the beam. What the heck is
Okay.
going through your head in that moment?
Like, right before the dismount, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so by the time I get to my dismount, I have to kinda bring myself down a little bit because I want to get really excited too soon. So, I my last skill before my dismount is my leap. So, I finish my leap, I take a breath, and I'm like, "Okay, like, let's go, like, we're on, we're going," but also, like, lock in and tell yourself your cues so that you don't just, like, mess this up randomly. And so I normally the sticking is a hard balance because you can't think too much to stick because you definitely won't stick if you're thinking way too much about it. So you have to set yourself up the right way through your corrections. So a lot of times I say like I think about keeping my hurdle low, which if you're a gymnast, you'll get this. Your hurdle low and then taking your set up so that your twist and flip can go up and
What's
down.
the hurdle low?
The hurdle low, so it's actually a correction from Cecile, my coach, because a lot of times I'll do a really high hurdle and you're more likely to like, you can't control how straight you are on the beam if you're
Okay.
higher, but if you're lower, you have a little bit more control. Honestly, it's really gymnastics terms, you'll get it if
I'm
you're a
like trying to
gymnast.
like do the math in
Yeah.
my head.
But, it basically just helps me so that I'll be straight over the beam instead of, like, punching off of, like, 1 foot,
Hmm.
right? Um, and then Cecile always stands at the end of the beam, like, where I land my dismount, and so when I land, I try and, like, look for her think about squeezing and sticking as much as I can after I've already done the round off. Um, but yeah, I would say that's what I'm thinking about before I dismount is like, let's go. You've done a great routine, but also let's lock in because you still got one more thing to do.
This is the most important part that is coming up.
Yeah.
Yes, that is wild.
Yeah.
Well, I loved hearing that because now whenever I get to watch you, I'm gonna be thinking about
Yes, you're gonna
hurdle low, even though
know.
I still am super confused about what that exactly
Right.
means. But I don't know how many more times I'll be on a balance beam, but hopefully one day I'll have a daughter and I'll be able to call you, Brooke, or
Yeah.
get her some help through this podcast. My
For
my final
sure.
question for you, and I'm a super girly girl, and so I love this. I've seen
Okay.
so many different leotards on you
Mhm.
this season and on your teammates. What is your most favorite one that you've gotten to wear this year?
That's hard. That's a really hard question because Cecile has done an amazing job with our Leos and the new ones we've had. Um, I feel like I have to go with we call it spider back, and it's like all black. It has like a deep V-neck of just like gems, and then the back is like we call it spider back because it's like, oh, a spider web kind of, like, it's all these, like, crosses. And I have loved that one since my visit here at Georgia, so that's, like, my, like,
That got you to
classic
Georgia,
go-to.
spider
Yes, like,
back.
I love that one. But I also really love the brand new white leotard we have, which I've always been skeptical of white leotards just because it's white and the spray tan and the
Yeah,
makeup and all
yep.
that stuff. But it's actually a beautiful Leo. So I know that was 2, but I couldn't just pick 1, so
Hey,
I'll go
that's
with
a
those
good
2.
answer. That's a good answer. I think if I had to choose,
Mhm.
I've only seen
Yeah.
a few, but I loved you all wore like a pink one, I think that I
Oh my
saw.
gosh.
Oh
That
my
that's my
goodness.
next that's the next one on the list. The pink one
So
is
cool. Oh
so
my gosh,
cute.
so good. Well, seriously,
Yeah.
Brooke, this was like so enjoyable to talk to you. And I'm so excited to keep following along with Beam Boldly and just your heart for the passion that you have behind that. And also just to see how that encourages you and your story and your gymnastics career. It is so cool to connect with you. And seriously, we're cheering you on.
Yes, thank you so, so much for having me on, and I hope y'all listen to Beam Boldly too and join the little family that we're building because it's been super fun and just so fulfilling. So, thank you so much, Annabelle.